Hello, welcome to the very first episode of Inside Out, where we give you bite-sized content on sexual reproductive care and lots more fun topics. I am your host, Juliana. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm currently interning with Bridgercare this summer. So just a little bit about myself. I was born in Sri Lanka and grew up in American Samoa. It's a little island close to Hawaii. So fun fact, I am trilingual. Currently, I am going to MSU and pursuing my bachelor's in pre-med, human development, and family science. So to kick off our very first episode, we have Bridgercare's very own OB-GYN, Dr. Casper, here with us. Hi, Dr. Casper.
Hello, Juliana. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on our first episode of Inside Out. We're so glad to have you here.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to talk about COVID and COVID vaccines, a subject that's quite timely and important and dear to my heart.
So, Dr. Casper, do you want to introduce yourself and your credentials and what services you provide here at Bridgercare?
Yes, so I'm a board certified OB-GYN. I've been the medical director at Bridgercare for the last 3.5 years. Before that, I practiced at the hospital here in Bozeman for quite a while.
Okay.
Here at Bridgercare, I provide office gynecology services, infertility, genetics counseling, and of course, a big focus on Bridgercare's main service, sexual and reproductive health care and family planning, and then also we do behavioral health.
Wow, that's a lot of services you provide, and I'm glad that Bridgercare has you here. So let's kick off our questions. So first question is, can you give us an overview of what's going on with COVID right now and your perspective on it?
Yes, so as far as COVID goes, there's been lots of good news this spring and early summer. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths from COVID virus infection are way down from the peak numbers in February. We're averaging approximately 12,000 cases per day in the U.S. These numbers are based on data from a couple weeks ago, compared to much higher numbers back at the peak in February. So this is wonderful news. And I'd like to stress that the reason this has happened is not because COVID has gone away on its own, but because so many people have been vaccinated. Vaccinations have led to this good news, have led to this success. So that's the wonderful news about COVID. What else is going on nationally? There has been a rise in COVID variants. And so we are seeing COVID infections creep up in the last several weeks from these variants. I would note that the most striking thing that's happening right now is that the vast majority of people who are hospitalized and dying from COVID right now are those who are unvaccinated. That's where we are right now.
That's awesome. Thank you for telling us more about COVID right now and just how much vaccination has helped so far. So are the vaccines effective with both COVID and its variants?
Yes. We have seen that the vaccines that are available, the mRNA vaccines, and notably the Pfizer vaccine is the one that has released study data, but we can extrapolate to Moderna. And also the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are both showing to be effective against the variants. And when we say effective, you have to take into account that these vaccines are about 96% effective at preventing hospitalizations and deaths in people with the variants. So the most severe illness. They're not quite as effective at preventing mild and asymptomatic infections when you're talking about the variants, as these vaccines are against the older COVID strains that we had in the beginning, but they are still 96% effective at preventing serious hospitalizations and deaths.
Yeah.
So yes, so the vaccines are providing protection against the variants. Will variants arise in the future for which we need a booster? It's very possible. We may need to be boosted against new variants that come on the scene. The way to prevent that from happening is to prevent new variants from developing. And how do we do that? We stop the virus from replicating. When the virus replicates, then it can mutate and you get the variants. So if everybody gets vaccinated and we stop the virus, we have no more variants and we don't have to worry about boosters and vaccines not working.
Yeah, totally agree with that. What are the experts saying about safety or risks of pregnant people getting vaccinated?
All the experts, I will say the American College of OB-GYN, the Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine, these are high-risk obstetricians, and the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, so the infertility doctors, are all saying that the vaccine is safe, and they encourage pregnant and postpartum and lactating people to get these vaccines.
Okay.
There was a good study that that came out recently in a small number of breastfeeding women that showed that there was no mRNA left from the vaccine in breast milk, but there are antibodies in breast milk to the COVID vaccine. So it appears very safe. And in the data we have so far from a registry called Be Safe in Pregnancy, which is where pregnant women who've been vaccinated can sign up with the CDC to report symptoms and adverse reactions, we've not seen any kind of safety concerns in women who've gotten vaccinated. Some of those women who've been vaccinated have gone on to have their babies, and we've seen no problems for the babies. Many of the women who've been vaccinated are still pregnant, but we aren't seeing any kind of side effects that are worse for pregnant women than non-pregnant women. No ill effects at all. And I will say that when pregnant women get COVID, they get sicker than women who aren't pregnant. They're more likely to end up in the intensive care unit. They're more likely to go into preterm labor than pregnant women who don't have COVID. And we think that they may be more at risk for hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. COVID is a risk in pregnancy, so we do encourage all pregnant people to get vaccinated.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I didn't know a lot about the pregnant women part and like vaccines being so much effective for them. So that's very insightful, and thank you for sharing that with me today. Do we know when the vaccine will stop working? Do you think we'll need more boosters in the future? I know you kind of touched on the boosters.
Yes, that is a question. We don't know how long the vaccine will be working for, but a recent study in Nature showed that in people who had received the mRNA vaccines, lymph node activity and antibody production remained quite robust, quite active at the 6-month mark after the vaccine. Okay. So, and we're still gathering data, but what we are seeing now is that the vaccines look like they're going to be effective for quite a long time. Whether people will need booster doses 5 or 10 years down the road, we don't know yet, but right now it's looking good. Again, the one worry is the variants. There may come along a variant that is not that the vaccines are not very effective against, and in that case we may need a booster, definitely. But again, we can stop those new variants from coming by everybody getting vaccinated now.
What's the biggest thing you wish people knew about the pandemic?
I hate to sound repetitive, but again, I think it's very important for people to understand that people that are dying today of COVID, and we're having approximately 250 deaths a day in our country from COVID. 250 people are dying on average every day right now from COVID, and those deaths are about 99% preventable. If those people were vaccinated, almost all of them would have lived. I think that's the most important takeaway. And we vaccinated over 150 million people in our country, and we have seen no evidence of worrisome or scary side effects. There is no evidence that the vaccines cause infertility or any of these crazy things that are being mentioned on the internet. So I would just encourage people to understand that these vaccines are safe. Many people have gotten them, 150 million. It's a huge test that has been passed. It's a huge accomplishment for science. These vaccine platforms have been percolating, the mRNA platforms have been percolating around for years, kind of on the fringes. They'd been studied and studied, but we hadn't really found a place to use them. And so scientists, when they were faced with this COVID crisis, were able to jump onto that knowledge and really get these vaccines into production, knowing what they had learned over the past 20 to 30 years about mRNA, and ramp up production really fast and get a vaccine out that can end this pandemic, and it does so safely. And I think that's what I wish people would realize, that there is something out there that can stop this virus from killing people.
Thank you, Dr. Casper. I agree. We went over like the mRNA vaccines in my classes, so it's just fascinating knowing that something that has been studied for like 30 years, but like finally it's been used, and how effective it's showing, up to like 96% in some of the vaccines that have been out in the market today. So thank you for stressing how important science has contributed to vaccines and how it can be preventable if you get your shot. Dr. Casper, can you talk a little bit about COVID shots at Bridgercare?
Yes, we are hoping to offer COVID vaccine in the very near future. We're arranging to get a supply now. One of the things that we know about vaccination in America right now is that the 18 to 29-year-old age group of people have the lowest vaccination rates. And that's our main patient population here at Bridgercare. The vast majority of people that we see here between the ages of 18 to 29. And so we would like to offer a vaccine to our clients here in a safe, convenient, easily accessible place. So we will be offering vaccine to anybody in the community who wants it. Anybody can call us and come in and get a shot, and also we'll be offering it to our patients as they come in for other visits.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Casper. This was very insightful, just learning more about COVID and vaccines. And I hope you guys enjoyed the tidbits on COVID and vaccines and how knowledgeable Dr. Casper was about everything related to the pandemic. So thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to meet you guys in another episode soon. Until then, this is Juliana signing off. Bye-bye.